the Achilles heel. The reason we are so susceptible to this and these tools I've highlighted, and we really are, the reason that we don't see that is because we have a concept called intellect. And we say to ourselves, I'm too smart, it won't work on me. And unfortunately that's not true, because what we call intellect is nothing to do with the level on which these processes work. And that's why, as I explained earlier, they intend to change this world model. And once our world model is changed, we're absolutely not aware of it until we're confronted with a hard reality to the point where we're in crisis. So to change that world model back again takes a crisis usually. And they also, as I've explained, work very deeply on emotional links and triggers. And so what we call our intellect really doesn't work in the same sphere of those emotional links and triggers. So it's very, very subliminal. It's not necessarily mentally subliminal, it's energetically subliminal. That's where, again, the metaphysical aspect is seeing it more as an energy thing rather than a mental thing. And that's why we get mixed up, because we think our mental processes are very objective and we're too smart. Of course we can see it. It'll never happen to us. Of course we can see it. Therefore we tend to discredit anything because manipulation would be mental, wouldn't it? You can't con me. Therefore I'm completely objective. And of course we aren't, unless it's tested and checked against fact. So our Achilles heel is that we really think it won't happen to us because we're too smart. And even if we don't think we're too smart, we think we could spot it because we think we understand how it works. So that's what makes it extremely dangerous, because it works in so many ways, in subtle ways, using all these tools and changing this world model, that what we refer to as the basis of our smarts, quote unquote, or quote unquote intellect, is a world model that's already skewed. So once it's skewed, that's it, you can't be objective. Best analogy I can think of for that skewing of that world model is that I once couldn't sleep, and I stayed awake for a couple of nights, and I was reading a book, and the light bulb in my little light blew, and all I could find was a red light bulb. And because I couldn't sleep, I read under a red light bulb. And after a few hours, the red didn't seem red anymore. And I got up the next morning and walked around the house and everything was green because I'd got this skewed world of red light which had become white. So everything when I came out in the daylight seemed green for about a day until it corrected back again. And this is the world model. This is the context. The context is that we're smart and perceptive and we know what's going on. And so manipulation really, really, really does work on this lower level, to which is the frame of reference for everything. It's not at all obvious, and yet we often tend to think it is obvious and that we'll spot it, and we won't. So once we can understand some of these tools and some of these techniques, I don't require you to necessarily know all about them, but to be aware of them and how they form a framework, a web, and how vulnerable we are to them, and the ways in which we're vulnerable to them, then we can see, yes, it actually is very easy for me to be manipulated. Once we can see that it's very easy for me to be manipulated, which does not mean I'm dumb or stupid or anything like that, then we can start to have a defense against it. One of the things you'll see on the web a lot is, these people believe this because they're dumb. Well, that's not only rude, but it's probably not true. But that is sort of the standard defense and or the standard accusation. And so if we can separate intellectual, what psychology calls intellectual intelligence, from these deeper mechanisms of perception and how they can be used to distort our world model, and to understand, is the world model a frame of reference that is twisted, so that if anything, once that's twisted, we do it for ourselves, because we automatically don't trust politicians, we automatically don't trust policemen, we automatically assume relationships are going to fail, whatever it is. That's when we put our own filters in the way. So it's sort of, we don't realize we're doing it to ourselves. So if we can divorce intellect and intelligence from manipulation, if we say to ourselves, I won't see it coming, I've got to have some tools to regularly check. The same way is we don't necessarily notice we put on weight. We have to go back to the scales and weigh ourselves each time. What I'm going to do in the following chapters is to give us a few little tools that will allow us to come away and see if we are being objective, and to test those things out, and to at least get some indicators. Well, maybe I'm not being that objective, rather than this trust that I am, or trust that I'm smart enough to tell when I'm being manipulated. Which, it doesn't matter how smart you are, chances are you won't see it.